Today we'll be going through the top 10 worst things Brian Griffin has done. Number 10, scamming Quagmire. After Brian gets his teeth completely wrecked,
my teeth!
Quagmire takes pity on him and pays for his dental treatment. Quagmire hates Brian, so the gesture is seen as a momentous thing.
I won't forget this, Glenn Quagmire.
Don't ever say my name like that, okay? And don't tell anybody about this. Now get the hell out of the bar, you pathetic son of a bitch.
With new teeth comes new attitudes, so Brian becomes a real estate agent. In an attempt to pay back Quagmire for helping him out, Brian decides to sell him a property. Turns out, of course, to have been a scam.
What the hell? This is a dump!
Well, maybe it's still got a nice ocean view.
The harbor is poisoned.
The place is a rundown dump, and now Quagmire's stuck with it. Brian evades Quagmire until the cancellation deadline is almost up. Then, when he's finally cornered, Brian fakes a long apology to get the sale over the deadline before laughing in Quagmire's face.
You're honest and direct and compassionate, and that is 72 hours. Enjoy your crap hole, dumbass.
You son of a bitch!
Resulting in him breaking Brian's shiny new teeth, which Brian definitely deserves it. Number 9, giving Stewie, Chris, and others herpes. Instead of warning Chris and Stewie about his herpes, Brian becomes blood brothers with them despite him knowing himself that he has herpes. The next morning, Stewie discovers that he has herpes, and horrified and enraged,
Ew, what's this?
Ah!
You son of a bitch, you gave me herpes!
he confronts Brian about this and finds that he's had herpes all along under his fur and never told him.
Ah! Oh my god, look at you! You're more herpes than dog! Okay, fine, I admit it, I gave you herpes. You bastard!
They get a lifelong disease as payment for their trust. It's not just these family members either. Brian is frequently engaged in relations with others who could get the disease as well, who have no idea that Brian has herpes. This honestly just shows how terrible Brian is as a person, refusing to tell others he has herpes. Number 8, framing Martha and being disgusting. It's bad enough to learn that Brian is caught by his coworker Martha fantasizing over pictures of her mother and sister at a funeral, but that's not the worst of it.
You know what, Brian? I will. Oh my God! Gross! You scumbag!
To prevent Martha from getting him fired, he plants drugs on her desk and calls the police to have her arrested. And all this is moments after Martha reveals that she decided not to say anything and forgive him. But at that moment, it's too late as the cops come to arrest Martha. Luckily, she managed to push Brian down the stairs, breaking his leg, which he deserves.
Ow! My leg is broken!
Number 7, abandons his son. No, we aren't talking about his son with Stewie, but Dylan. In the Former Life of Brian episode, it was revealed that Brian has a son named Dylan. He causes a lot of trouble, but eventually the two find common ground and he leaves to take care of his mother. Years later, Brian gets a text from Dylan saying he's returning to Quahog. Brian remains distant until Dylan mentions he's on a TV show. Brian uses Dylan to further his writing career, and Brian causes a lot of headaches on set and in the writer's room, causing Dylan to call him out on how bad of a father he is.
You know what, Dad? I'm starting to think that you've just been using me to advance your career. God, you're a terrible father. I never want to see you again.
Bad dog indeed. Number 6, permitting a woman and her child to drown. While bragging about an act of heroism that led to a hernia, Brian talks about how he stopped a car from sliding into the water. The driver and a woman asked Brian for just a second so that she could save her baby from the back seat. Since Brian was apparently only interested in having a woman with no kids, so she'd date him, he lets the car go, killing the two occupants.
I can't hold it!
Okay, let me just unstrap my baby.
Oh, slipping, sorry.
Number 5, lying to a blind woman. In order to have a relationship with a blind woman named Kate, Brian pretends to not be a dog. Worse, she stages events that make him appear incredibly romantic, like saving her from muggers and taking her to Paris.
Buddy, Usually handsome guys ain't so good with their fists.
And stay away from my girlfriend.
Brian, I know karate too. I can help you.
You stay out of this, lady.
When he gets caught and she ends the relationship, he pretends to be another fictional person named Noah to continue to date her, just showing how sad and desperate Brian is. Number 4, repeatedly trying to get with Lois. Not only does that mean betraying his so-called best friend Peter, it's a consistent pattern of despicable behavior from Brian. He's repeatedly tried to seduce her. He once tried by reading Lois's Perfect Man, which backfires. Even Lois calls him out on it.
I'm ashamed of myself. I hope you can find it in your heart.
Hey, Bri.
There's various examples throughout the series of Brian casually leering after Lois. The worst example is probably when they get a cat and Brian lifts the kitten off a sleeping Lois so he can paw at her breasts.
Meow. Purr. Purr. I think you're dreaming.
No, I'm not.
Number 3, lets his new wife choke to death. The start of season 17 had a 2-part season premiere, which was an absolute train wreck. Focused around Brian marrying Jess, a terminally ill woman with cancer. The first episode sees the two of them dating, falling in love, and Brian struggling with the fate Jess has already accepted. His proposal seems genuine, and marriage to a woman soon to die fits his commitment issues. Although soon Brian has second thoughts.
What?
Meaning Jess is going to live.
After the wedding, Jess recovers, and it turns out without cancer, she's hideously annoying. She farts a lot, which means the cancer's fading, and overeats, resulting in her choking on some nachos. At first, he's unaware it is happening. He's ignoring her. Then, when he realizes leaving her to die until it's too late,
Oh my God! Somebody call 911!
and in the end though, it actually not too late, and yet Jess survives. Brian then falls into a deep depression, and he too overeats until Jess gets sick of looking after him. There's a long, fairly unfunny montage, and tries to put him down. Basically, they're both terrible people. Number 2, dating underage Patty for her body. Brian has no interest in Patty, even finding her slightly annoying until he walks in on her dressing.
Wow. Holy crap, that was Patty.
He then crafts a fake personality to have sex with the underage girl. Meg steps in and stops him before he engages in the illegal behavior, but it's still filthy that he tried. Number 1, trying to date Stewie's negligent teacher. Instead, it focuses on Brian completely ignoring all the terrible, abusive, and neglectful things he does as Stewie's daycare teacher, all because she's a pretty face. After initially hearing of the poor conditions of the daycare when Stewie comes home covered in paint, Brian goes to school to have a stern talk with the teacher. Once he sees how gorgeous Miss Emily is though, he quickly changes sides and tries to make Stewie see the school isn't so bad. Even after Stewie's arm is dislocated, Brian still sides with Miss Emily. Obviously, the deliberate ignoring of the abuse to his closest friend is terrible, but another layer of this whole mess is Brian's sheer desperation. He's not even dating Miss Emily. He just doesn't want to blow his chances of being able to. Once he discovers she has a boyfriend, he flip-flops again, turning Miss Emily into the authorities.
What you did to these kids? There is a special place in hell for people like you.
He even tells her there's a special place in hell for people like her, completely oblivious to his own disgusting behavior. Quagmire was right. Brian is really a terrible person who never changes and chooses himself over others every time. Let us know what you think is the worst thing Brian has done in the comments below.